Yeah. What? Wait. Hold on a second. Damn. I thought I was ready. I thought I was ready to go. Let me just,
Well, I guess I could just. Let me just. Yeah, that feels a little more comfortable. A little more comfortable. You know, that's I guess why people edit stuff. They, you know, get everything ready. What's happening? What is happening, guys? It's time for another episode, I guess. You know, I start to say, why not? You know, let's get into it. Because I deleted that audio. It's unfortunate. See, the best laid plans of 5G and clouds. You get issues sometimes. I guess it's a plane up there. It's 2 dots. What's up, Madam Mayhem? How's it going? It's this kind of night. Yeah, all sorts of thoughts and ideas come together and fall apart again. Things I'd want to say, ideas I'd want to get into, and then it falls apart again, you know. Trying to make a plan. What's up, convicted resistance bear? Yeah, I am, you know, trying to get back in the game. It's a long haul to keep something like this going. Keep the media flowing. Getting you some high quality pictures of the rollout. Guess, you know, I have a lot of hobbies, a lot of little strange things. And, you know, the things that I don't really share with the normal people in my life, I share here. Just to, you know, have somebody to bounce these ideas off. Really notice the quality of the neighborhood, whether you're going to get on the building painted on 5G routers, or if you're going to get these much sweeter looking round sort of post things. It depends on the neighborhood. Depends on the neighborhood you get into. Right? If it's a little more ghetto, then they're just going to be a little more gratuitous with the amount I guess there's, this is a more of a major thoroughfare. There's going to be people driving through. They're going to need more connections, etc., etc. But yeah, I've noticed that depending on where you're at, you're going to get, something different. And this is just another check for anybody out there that has a bathroom or has been to a bathroom recently. Just, taking a poll, what shape are the tiles? Are they squares or are they hexagons? Just saying. But what I wanted to get into before we get any further here, I was just watching this.
And not
Get your sign out of here. Come on, what's going on? Oh, it's stuck. This video, which I listed in my list of pocket things, was just blowing my mind because it is talking about a lot of the stuff that I've been thinking about lately, and I guess talking about on the channel. That we sort of create our own realities. It's an inevitability of consciousness that right, you have to sort of come to grips with what's going on out in the world, and right, in order to do that, you take whatever impressions are around you, and anything that's sort of just available. And when it just so happens that just an endless stream of media, scripted and unscripted, news events and all that sort of flashes before your eyes, and you're presented with the morals of what's going on there, then you take that in, whether you like it or not, in whatever way that you take it in. But at the same time, right, it'll settle in a sort of blanket fashion to all of us that are taking in this content. And when you're presented with those situations in your real life, then there's a good chance that you're gonna reflexively, out of your control, think of that lesson, I guess, that was being taught in the news or in the show or in whatever else. And when you really get down to it, like how much of everything that you think and say and do is sort of formed or informed by just media in general, everything from the Bible to Game of Thrones. The moral dilemmas that you're presented with on screen are, I mean, what else would you expect anybody to? That's the world that you live in then, right? And you're presented with ways to think and ways to behave in certain situations, and how, right? You'd have to be a crazy person to go against it then, and that's what sort of creates the reality. But how sort of bendable and manipulatable that whole sort of cycle here is. And I mean, he won't mind if I play like a second of it, right?
To social conditions. Transformations in genre and texts can influence and reinforce social conditions. So genres can reinforce and influence culture, but how much? As another genre theorist points out, genre is a means of constructing both the audience and the reading subject, meaning a genre, in terms of text and subtext, forms a relationship with an audience to the extent that when one is engaged with the framework and construction of a genre, they, in turn, are being constructed by that genre. Some examples of this audience construction can
Right. I mean, right. Sort of what I'm talking about here. I thought this was interesting too. And I got to check out this movie now. what was it called? The Minds of Madness? In the Mouth of Madness. Some old genre movie, but obviously everything out there has like a deeper layer of truth to it. And right, the bleeding eyeballs. I guess that happens a lot in film and TV, and that is just another one of those things that we learn, in it, because it's presented so many times in so many different ways from so many, what can you say, different sources. I mean, this is definitely the not this shouldn't be the first time that you're seeing a bleeding eyeball, I would say. But what's the point here? What am I trying to get at? I think, I don't know, maybe I've been coming to grips with the fact that this is how the world works, basically. And that it's variable as well, right? Because part of it is the input that you get from everything, but it's also what you do with that input, right? And how some serious sort of neuroses and but because it's everything from your basic behavior to your really sort of aberrant or deviant behavior. How much of it really is coming out of the culture directly sort of stamped onto you, and how much of your thoughts are actually your own? I mean, it's, I guess, uncomfortable. You don't want to think about that too hard. But I don't know what it is. I find myself gravitating towards the things that just seem to make everybody uncomfortable out there in the real world. And I'm definitely rambling at this point. I fully understand that. And, what is it? I can come up with excuses, exhaustion, all this driving around the city. But, you have to realize how much of the things in your life that you can change and what you have to just deal with. But if it really is us just sort of creating our own reality, then why not create a better one? I guess you would have to get more into pleasing yourself. Yeah, what's up, Michelle? Solipsism. It's all right. That's the point. It's all stuff people have thought before and done before. It's nothing new, but these cycles, they come up, right? And it's interesting. I think just, I don't know, get it out there and see if anybody else, like you, Michelle, is thinking about the same thing. Because, right, how much of it is, I guess I just got pointed at that YouTube video. It's definitely mega worth watching. Would highly recommend. Did I put it in here yet? I'll put it in the thing. Why am I going on about this though? This has been in the news. I guess this is not like instantaneously new. This is from a couple days ago. But right, as this sort of mudflood terraria stuff becomes, I don't know, just ever present, sort of in my mind, and I would think in the minds of other people, just because that's how this all works. Um, it's just more and more things point to that having to be true. That there has been civilization on the American continent for a really long time in previous cultures, and through whatever some sort of cataclysm where they were all giants and they got murdered or disappeared, leftover style or something. It's hard to say what happened, but there was definitely previously advanced cultures that we're just not really sort of informed about, right? Because all of this sort of, you gotta watch the video. This like genre forming is what goes on in these earlier times where they're showing, right, that there was all these world's fairs and everything, and that was showing that here's all these different cultures, and this is what these people build their buildings like, and these are the things that they do. And it really was like the education of the entire world, because that those world's fairs went around the world, and year after year, people were informed about, here are the different nations and here's what they mean, and right, so you were ready. They were all ready for the world wars when they actually happened, because the stereotypes had already been cemented from like birth for, I guess, a lot of people that lived at the time. I was going to get into that in a second, but right, there's a good chance in those previous Tartarian mud flood times that they had these awesome airships, right? And what's that movie, Steam Boy? That is definitely worth watching. Steam Boy. They have these airships, these advanced airships that are just flying everywhere all the time, and right, that is really not that hard to imagine that this was already going on majorly in the past, because for these reasons, that it is more efficient than having these giant ocean liners. And I guess they can make them now so they could just carry tens of thousands of pounds of freight, right? And you could look into the Hindenburg and all that kind of stuff, but right, there's a good chance that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. There's a good chance this already happened, and that they're just bringing it back. And it's in a bunch of these, and that's why I like to sort of I don't really bring anything up unless there's like more than 3 or 4 articles about it, because that's when it's like important that people create, they add this to their concept of the world, or what's actually happening today. It's important that, right, and I guess I'm putting it here out into your brains from my brain, that like, right, airships, let's get that going again. I mean, for the first time. That sounds like a really good idea. Save the environment and all that, right? You gotta save the whales. That'd be much better if you didn't have all that shipping, right? All that carbon. And then you realize, I don't know, that all of these things, all of these ideas about carbon, your carbon footprint, global, what's the word again? Making hotter, extra toasty globe. It's all stories. They're all just stories in your brain that have been inserted there from everywhere, right? Because as soon as it really just gets out there enough, it's self-replicating. You'll hear it from your parents or somebody else. They'll just reinforce it. So maybe you've already heard about the airships from somebody else, or you read the article yourself, and right before long, it's just a normal thing. 51. It seems like they've been doing these consecutively ever since then. And how many of the, mud flood type people talk about this era being so important, right, for the changeover. 1812, something really crazy happening, by this point they would have sort of figured all that out, and that this was the beginning of the re-education, especially starting with England. And then touring around Europe a little bit, and then coming to the United States. Is that the first one? And they're still going on now. You gotta catch one in the future. Good old Kazakhstan. I guess that's my debate constantly with myself. We can get into these news articles. Get into the circular logic. Am I too spaced out to be doing this podcast? Is my brain just sort of torn to shreds at the moment? It's possible. Does that mean I shouldn't do the podcast? Or does that mean I should do the podcast just to document the fact that that's how people are these days? Like how this video is all choppy. It's like all of reality sort of jumbling, repeating, copying. Right, and if you go watch that fucking other video. You'll hear all about this. This movie. Yeah, no, I'm really spacing out. What am I trying to say here? I guess what I'm trying to say is that my reality, has been informed a lot by a lot of this conspiratorial thinking and conspiratorial nature things, right? So I think the more you delve into anything, that is the nature of our reality, or at least our personal reality. The more you look into this stuff, the more you may end up having it actually affect your real life. And right, you read a lot about these numbers. I see a lot about these numbers all over the YouTube area, and I must admit they've entered my life. They're all over the place, all the time, and it's almost like some sort of language that is built for you at your current level of understanding, but it's still a form of communication, right? And whether you're creating the whole thing yourself, and it's just sort of your subconscious coming back to guide you or whatever, to get you in the right place, whether it's all just coming from inside your mind, or whether there is really some cosmic level, multidimensional creature, entity, consciousness trying to communicate, directly to you through the numbers that you see. I mean, you be the judge, I guess. But it's the kind of thing I think once you enter the possibility, once you think about that actually being real, and that's again in that video, from going from belief to, what is it? Just the idea to belief that when you really start to believe that something's real, like telekinesis or non-local communication, that's sort of when you open the floodgates, for yourself. And I think that's why this this battle of consciousness, this battle between everything out there, everybody that hasn't sort of entered this world, the conspiratorially thinking world, is just so they're ready to reject so easily because, well, it's the question why they been fully programmed. Are they thinking in the right way, or have they just not molded their brain into those possibilities, so they just cannot see the possibilities or the options there, basically? And that's why this battle is so important, because if people really do start to, say they can communicate with numbers, time, all of that, then it opens the floodgates, and then that would change society irrevocably if people really knew the power that they have. And so they got to keep it away. But I think I don't know, once you start to go down those roads, then you start to see it, and then the communication is on a level that you understand. Yeah, and you're probably right, flat Earth fantasy. I feel a little lost. Feel a little, yeah, I guess confused. But why not? Why not put that on the records? It's not like it's not like there's too many of you yet. Um, yeah, I guess it's just trying to figure out what is all this. What is the point? What are you even trying to achieve in your life? Is it an idea that you had yourself? Is it what you really want to be doing? I'm not sure. I just know that as fight as much as I can, there seems to be a guiding force. There seems to be some sort of, I don't know, what do you call it? An entity, like basically a higher power that just seems to reach out continuously from the ether. And whether you're able to see it or feel it or understand it or not, that's the question. Whether it first starts to reach out once it realizes you're willing to see something, then it'll show it to you. That's the question. But yeah, I guess I'm talking kind of cryptically. It's hard to explain. It is hard to explain. Yeah, and I use the voice changer because, well, it's sort of like a statement, for many reasons. It's, I guess it would be okay if I showed my actual person on this channel, it would probably be okay. But it's sort of the statement, the idea that this is not really encouraged very much anymore, to do anything anonymously, to talk, to just, I don't know, show what's going on in my mind. If I just turn this thing on, I mean, and I guess that's what's going on in my mind. You're feeling it. It's kind of a mess right now, and there's just a lot going on. There's just a lot going on in my life, I guess, and so much to deal with that's why I haven't been coming on so often, because there's just too much, too many other things to think about, and I don't want to, that was never really the plan, to make the show about me. Want to bring you the news, talk about some entertainment, and maybe that's why, again, people edit things, because not everything is, not every great idea is had on the spot, basically.